Well, hello and welcome. Well, we're looking at anti-corruption crusade across the continent. And anytime we talk about anti-corruption crusade across the continent, one name comes to mind, and that's General Buhari, President of Nigeria. Now, is it the air that he brings? Is that his credibility that he brings along, or is there a magic one that he's got? Politics, they say it's perception. And therefore, if we perceive that the system is anti-corruption fever moving across the country, then so be it. Indeed, the Washington Post said he must be the least corrupt leader in the whole of Africa. These things do work. But how is he going to work? Because individually, from our homes, our churches, everywhere we are, because of impediments, we always try to find the shortest cut to get to our meat. How is he going to do it, and is he going to win? And then we'll touch a little bit on security. When I come back, I have two eminent guests who are going to discuss this issue, and then we'll find out how we're going to turn this continent around. Indeed, is there something that Ghana can learn from Nigeria? My name is Nana Ansakwa, and this is PM Express. Anti-corruption crusade across the continent. Big conversation for you this evening. And Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari paid a working visit to Ghana on Monday. Now, many Nigerians consider Ghana as their second home, and to see to talk about security in the sub-region. Now, with me to discuss this, to my left is His Excellency Ambassador Sir Ademola Olesinye Onafokunwa, and he is the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana. And then my own senior brother, Dr. Vladimir Enchidansu, Dean of Research, Legon Center of Diplomacy and International Affairs. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Dr. Vladimir. Security in the sub-region seems to have, we don't hear too much of Boko Haram since the new president came along. Coincidence or something that they've done?
I think both. I thought this question should have gone to His Excellency first, but since I am in the field, we'll try it and do justice to it. The first point is, yes, when you have a new leader coming, the terrorists would like to find who the person is, what is his strategy, what is he going to do. So automatically, whether Buhari had taken any steps at all or not, these guys would want to strategize and also find out what they would do. But be it as it may, General Buhari quickly announced his presence. He landed running and made it clear what he wanted to do with Boko Haram. He quickly visited the countries around, had a coalition with them, and we could see the result. And that is why they may have, some activities may have subsided. But let us not say hooray yet. It's not yet uhuru. In the sense that that is what the terrorists always want. When they are under severe attack, they always change their strategy. They change their form. It's like a starfish. Once you are hitting one wing, the strength of that wing enters the other side. If you watch out, in spite of the fact that some gains have been made, you would realize that they have changed their activities and they are using more suicide bombing. And they are turning the attention from the northeastern part of Nigeria to all parts of Nigeria. In Lagos, people were arrested. It shows that they are changing. Several other countries are now, getting the recruitment fever, and including Ghana, and we are alarmed. So let us not believe that a new person has come and we have been able to subdue Boko Haram. No, it's going to be a long, drawn battle.
Sir Ademola, is it a coincidence, or there's something that the general has done that is putting fear in the terrorists?
Well, first of all, I'd like to correct the title of President Muhammadu Buhari. He prefers to be addressed as Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic. and not general.
Okay.
He was a retired general of the Nigerian forces.
I'm sorry about that. Once a general, always a general.
Retire with your rank, don't you?
Exactly.
Now, having said that, President Buhari was a general of the Nigerian armed forces, very experienced. He took part in a civil war, and he had watched these things from the sideline. What he did when he got there was to change the commanders of the armed forces and gave them a marching order. 3 months, Boko Haram should be wiped out. Not only that, he moved quickly to the neighboring countries, which he has just done with Ghana, to solicit support and cooperation so that the borders are secured and generally West Africa is secured, especially those countries close to Nigeria, which these people can call home. And then a massive attack on the rebel positions, on the Boko Haram position, especially in the Sambisa forest, by air, by every means possible, and they were being attacked from every front. They're on the back foot now. They are virtually being crushed. I believe in another 2-3 months, Boko Haram will probably be a spent force. There might be pockets, little this and that. Those sleeper cells that you mentioned, that they've been there since, they're just trying to activate them. You know, these people are mindless and they are wicked. Yeah. They use 10-year-old, they use anybody that you can't suspect. Because of this, for instance, the Niger Republic banned wearing of the veil.
Wow.
Yes, they don't allow it. I don't know if Chad did the same, but in Nigeria, everybody is suspicious and cautious. Boko Haram's attack is not as big as it used to be. They've lost a lot of ground. Mm-hmm. People, indeed, are returning. The internally displaced persons, IDPs, are beginning to go back to their homes, and I think we're getting it right. They have to. Well, this is not the first time we're experiencing this type, but this is more. It's been more expensive. We've had the Maita thing. We have the one other one in the past, and General Buhari then, as head of state, was able to deal with it squarely.
What did Goodluck Jonathan not do?
Well, Goodluck Jonathan tried his best, but what I was thinking then, and I'm still saying now, which is what General Buhari is doing, is to have reached out ab initio to those neighboring countries and make it a focal point. Look, not that Nigeria cannot defeat these people alone. We don't need anybody to help us defeat them. But he should have reached out to those countries earlier. Mm-hmm. And also, the Chief of Defense Staff, Alex Badi, came out to say that they didn't use sophisticated enough equipment to battle them. I think that was one of the drawbacks then. But now everything is better organized, and focus is given to the equipment, and they are really giving them a hot chase.
It's true. Well, I think that one of the drawbacks is also this, that President Goodluck Jonathan was slow in reacting. That's number one. Number two, the enthusiasm to stop Boko Haram wasn't given the necessary impetus during his time. And thirdly, as His Excellency has said, he didn't give it a West African-wide kind of focus. You know, it was like the attention on Boko Haram was not given the right focus. But I think these are the things that, and he himself at a point in time was suspecting some of his staff. You know, I mean, his commanders. You know, and if that is the case, then he should have given the necessary action and supplied the military with the necessary ingredients to be able to stem the tide. Again, unlike President Buhari, he was unable to give it that focus from the neighboring countries. You know, when President Buhari came in, quickly he's visited Chad, Niger, and Cameroon and solicited their support, in the sense that when in the past they were fighting individually and at least undermining each other, because the Boko Haram could cross the borders to any of these areas and attack from there. This time, it's like it's a kind of coalition. It's a kind of general front and encirclement, kind of. And I think
Absolutely.
this is a plus to Buhari's methodology or method of trying to beat Boko Haram to the back.
Sir, we are all expecting miracles from Nigeria now, because the whole the continent is plagued with stories of misappropriation, you know, sometimes blatant corruption, sometimes misplaced priorities. The continent is just placed with too much of that. People starving, and then the presidential is driving in a literally, you know, luxurious fleet of cars and everything. Now here's a man who's come and seems to be going away from what we may see as the norm. Has he got the people to support him? Because obviously he can't do it on his own. Has he got a team of people who say, well, because he's going along this track, we're also going to do it?
I think he's doing very well in that respect. The president, if you live opulently, you don't pay taxes, you don't employ labor, and you seem to be stupendously wealthy, you have to be able to account for it. Now there's a new tax code whereby all companies operating in Nigeria will have to, they are going to check their books to make sure they pay the correct taxes. All payments should now go into federation account, whereas before you pay to this agency, everything goes straight to central bank. So the possibility of not paying tax is being taken off. The possibility of diversion of money is being taken off. So corruption, I mean, if you occupy a government position or some big positions in government, and you are stupendously rich, you cannot explain it, then you have questions to answer. So I think his main campaign objective was to fight corruption, and I think he's hitting it headlong.
He did that by starting declaring what he's got.
Yes.
I think the whole world was shocked that he's only got 150,000, you know, because normally a man of his caliber across this continent would have a little bit more than that. But he's shown everybody what he's got. That, look, this is what I have, and this is what before I start work. Now, that's one thing which across the continent is very, very difficult to let the political leaders to say, look, tell me what you have before you come into office, and when you're going, let me know what you acquired. I mean, that how significant is that?
Well, he's been declaring his assets since 1975, when he was a governor under Muritala Mohammed. This is the fourth time, like he said yesterday, on the steps of Pedwase, that he's doing that. It's in our constitution to declare your assets, and President Buhari is a very frugal man. His needs are very few. So it's easy for him. He sees no reason why he should amass wealth unnecessarily. He's teaching us what you see in the Nordic countries, where people think of the common good rather than thinking of themselves alone. And if the president can subject himself to that, as far as government funds and properties are concerned, I think he's a good example. He is not a private person. Private individuals, private businessmen can live as flamboyant as they want, so far they pay their taxes. But when you work for government, you have to be able to show, to account for whatever you are worth, especially if you have a position of a governor, minister, and other key positions that the Constitution says should declare their asset. I think if we start doing that with what President Buhari has started now across Africa, I think we'll have a lot of resources kept at home rather than being shipped abroad, where people die, the money is lost in some foreign countries, where their family, at least, will not even have access to it, not to talk of their country. And this capital flight is so massive in Africa. Why can't we use that money at home to develop our people, to develop our environment? Why are people dying in the Mediterranean, trying to get to Europe, when we have resources in some African countries, even more than those European countries? We'd rather take the money and put it somewhere we cannot eat a quarter of it. Our children's children cannot eat a quarter of it. Why do we do such massive fraud or stealing or waste at the expense of the populace? You know, I think it's taking a good step in the right direction.
Doc, do you think Buhari can bring modesty back into our dictionary, because it seems to have disappeared?
Well, I think so if it's institutionalized. You see, many of our heads of state in Africa do mention corruption. When I come, I'll do this, I'll do that. They initially try to be flamboyant, trying to show this kind of expressing it in the open and making sure this is what I'm going to do, and people have confidence in them. All these things fizzle out in the course of time because they have not been institutionalized. His Excellency mentioned the frugality of the man. And the literature around him is that is legendary. You know, the man is so frugal. I mean, he doesn't want to lead any ostentatious life. And he showed it during his presidency earlier on. All right? And at that time, I thought he was, though very experienced, he was very impatient. And he led in the hard line. So he didn't get down. But here is the time that he said, look, after all, the thing is in our constitution. So I'm setting the example. And the way he has started, it looks as though this time it would stay. Earlier heads of state had set up anti-corruption institutions which were not obeyed because they themselves hadn't subjected themselves to it. And this time he's institutionalizing the thing. He's making sure that the structures that are put down make meaning to the people. Like His Excellency has said, you pay your tax directly to the federal coffers. I mean, there's no way that you are paying to the governor's coffers before something is done about it and that kind of thing. And I think if these things are institutionalized, they become part and parcel of the people. If they are not part and parcel of the people just begin to forget. So as like in Ghana, we say, Ihura Ebejo, to wait, Your Excellency. It means when something simmers, it goes down. So at this time, I think he's gotten the background, the experience. He knows Nigeria's problem more than maybe any other person. He's been there before, through his governorship, through his being the head of state, through his being in opposition and fighting back. Exactly, Minister of Petroleum. And this man's experiences and the nature of the person itself imbibes in people or ignites.
I was just going to say that, you know, politics is mainly perception.
That's right.
Once he's gotten this good perception, which is anti-corruption perception, is he able to have the domino effect to trickle down?
It has to have the domino effect if you put the structures down, because it cannot be everywhere. If the structures he puts down and these things are institutionalized, all right, and if the institutions are given the open hand to effectively work, and that is the crux of the matter. In Africa, the institutions are not working and the heads of state are also looking on because they get, it is when the institutions are fragile that they get the chance also to be ostentatious and, profligate and things like that. But now that is institutionalized, even he himself, if he gets into the web, the institutions or the structures will catch up with him. We don't have that yet in Africa. And if he's setting the example, all for him. We should be able to be proud of such a person. And Nigeria specifically should not fail. It's a huge country. It has the biggest GDP in the whole of West Africa, and perhaps second to South Africa, or the other time there was the debate as to whether South Africa has Nigeria has outstripped South Africa. This shows how much a giant Nigeria is. And if you look at what His Excellency is saying, why do we have all these and people are still walking away from Nigeria across the desert through Libya to go and die in the seas over there? When these little things, if we put them together, why will a governor turn himself into a woman to try and avoid being arrested in London and that kind of, just because he's corrupt? Why would the former head of state just stash in foreign banks billions of dollars, for which Nigeria is now trying to get a little back? And when you get it out there, they are not stupid, excuse me to say, to bring the monies back. Nowadays, however, because of global affront to these things, they say, oh, we'll help you, Swiss banks, this person has gotten this money here, we want to get it back to Africa and things like that. But how much do they give back? So I think if he institutionalized this thing, if it is impersonal, it's like it is not a Buhari thing. It is something we have to do in Nigeria. And Nigerians imbibe this. The institutions are doing their best. I think it is a big plus for Nigeria, and therefore many more countries will emulate.
So you see, I think the fear of the unknown makes people, I'm going to work in the Ministry of Education for 40 years, and when I finish work, I might not have enough to retire. So while I'm working, I'm doing little pilfering so that I can build myself a little shack and go. Now, these people are those who don't want the system to change, because when the system changes, they'll probably, genuinely not be able to survive. How do we deal with such people? Because the pay is not enough. The pensions are not enough. By the time they retire, they still have 2 children in school. How do we solve this issue to bring, because if we just say, everybody go out there and be Jesus Christ, don't take any money, that becomes very difficult.
I'll tell you this much. I'll start with myself. I have 2 children, and I've retired now. I'm not paying school fees. What I earn in retirement and my little savings should be able to keep me. The problem we have in Africa, in Nigeria and in Africa, is people procreate senselessly. When you know your income, when you know what you're going to get into retirement, why do you go and start having 8, 10 children? Of course, you look for other means to get resources to take care of them and yourself in retirement. Secondly, the society doesn't help us. Once you get a position, people from your village, from your local government, from wherever in your neighborhood are going to be looking up to you and thereby putting pressure on you to steal, because they're going to be requesting, asking you for what you don't have. And you also will be willing, if you are so stupid, to go after government coffers to show that, well, you are somebody now. I'll give you this, I'll give you that. We have to start by educating our people. The government has to set up, we had it in Nigeria, it was called MAMSA, whereby the society will be taught, look, don't encourage corruption, don't force people that are your family or relations to provide wealth which they don't have, just to show that in African parlance they have arrived. No, I think it's not only the individual, the society itself has to be tutored to know that at the end of the day, they will be the one to suffer for it. Because the money they are giving you, you're going to use it recklessly because you didn't earn it. And when the man goes there, you can't get it again. Everybody goes down together. While he's giving you, he's stealing more for himself to put away, which he will never touch. That's if he's not arrested and taken from him. In Nigeria, we have institutions to check that. We have the EFCC, Economic and Finance Crime Commission. You have it here too. We have the ICPC, to also Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, to also fight this for us. And if these institutions are applied as President Muhammadu Buhari is applying it now, I think we can clear up Nigeria. And I think with other African countries seeing this kind of thing, they can also apply the same. A president, when he retires, obviously will be very comfortable with his retirement. And with what he has gotten in government, you don't have, and you probably get some salary, good salary for life. I mean, you don't need to go, it doesn't happen in America, it doesn't happen in the Nordic countries. The people have to be educated from our leaders to know that you don't have to do that to punish your people. Because when you do it, you punish generations yet unborn.
You wanted to
answer? Well, Donna, yes, I wanted to come in over here. Well, His Excellency has mentioned education. His Excellency has mentioned the kind of social psychology that we have. It's like a social psychological canopy hanging over our head that is a systemic canker, where the higher you go, the bigger you have to be, and to show to society that you occupy a certain position. So there is some pressure on you and that sort of thing. But I believe in the same way, the sort of education he's talking about can be positive and effective, even only if we change the system. It's the system itself, and which the president...
Can we handle that change?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
If I take West Africa, for instance, that change that we are talking around this table, I mean, if it came today, I mean, 80% of the population will be wiped out?
It doesn't have to wipe out, because society is like an organism. Depending on the environment, they change towards it. But if it is not sustained, that is the problem. I remember the period of Jerry John Rawlings in the revolutionary era. When people were subjected to all kinds of things, people sat up. But then it's because the revolutionaries themselves threw it away that everything went away. And then when we had democracy, it is worse. But supposing the system that President Buhari is putting in place is sustained, we get our levels. Because the monies that are being stolen by individuals become state money, which is not stolen anymore, and therefore the system changes for the better, in the sense that social security is ensured. And therefore you're thinking of getting your social security in terms of stealing for the future. Doesn't happen.
And the society holds you and the people going to replace you in government to the same standard.
Exactly.
So it becomes like our toga. Exactly. When you get there, we're watching you. The last president did not steal. The last minister did not steal. If you steal anything, we're going to blow it on you.
Exactly.
I
So
think
it becomes
system.
See, I always say that it's the shape of the container that shapes the content. Yes. This bottle we have before us.
It's a mold.
It's a mold. You know, this bottle, the shape of the water in it is shaped by how the bottle looks. You know, so if we are able to change the societal norms, rules, regulations, and institutions are working according to the remit given them by the Constitution, and not corruption in Africa is purely because governments take a blind eye to it because they themselves are corrupt. But if the system is working, come on, nobody is going to be poorer than he would have been if he were not stealing. So the system is what the man wants to change. The president wants to change the system and make sure that institutions work. It is not a Buhari thing. It is a Nigerian thing for generations yet unborn. And the new generation will now learn that, look, if I'm a minister, I'm a minister. This is what I'm worth. And this is what I take home. And that's, we know that. And try not to steal.
I'm hearing a lot of accountability. Now, Your Excellency, the issue we have here is we only want accountability if my party is not in government. So if I was the MPP today, then I want absolute accountability from government.
But that's not what we have with President Buhari. His party is in government and is holding himself and people that are going to work with him responsible for their conduct. If you are ready to steal, you should be ready to do the time. It's not opposition telling him what to do. He's doing what he's doing to his party in terms of fiscal discipline, in terms of anti-corruption drive. He doesn't have a minister today, not because he's not ready. By the grace of God, this month, those ministers will be named. But he wants to see how much he can vet these people so that when they go before the Senate will not say, oh, this president that is talking about anti-corruption is bringing people who are corrupt before them. So I think he's doing the wise thing, and he's setting the stage whereby there will be purity in governance. He's doing a thing that whereby if there's peer review commission, he doesn't need to be afraid of saying, this is it, your government is corrupt, because when it comes to his turn, you have nothing negative to write on him. I think it's right time, high time, that African leaders should be held accountable, responsible for their actions. It is not a question of those people that work with you. You yourself, the leader, should be held accountable for whatever those people, because you should monitor them. You should monitor them. And I think we have to start from somewhere. We're starting from that place now.
I think that's a big antidote, isn't it? I mean, I'll just go stuck in my tracks. Because he's not waiting for you to come and check him. I'm checking myself.
Exactly.
Would that model work here?
It will work because, look, Ghana is not different from Nigeria. And if somebody has stepped in to start working.
Are we not too politically divided?
Look, we are too politically divided. It takes one man to change a thing. It takes one person to say that, look, discipline. I'm disciplining myself. I want society to be disciplined.
This is what I have.
This is what I have. See, the unfortunate situation
How did you get what you have?
Exactly. And the unfortunate
So if you know
situation
you
is
are
that
corrupt, don't come into
don't come in,
government.
don't come in at all. And then if the president will put it onto his own men that when somebody is faulty, like His Excellency, you'll be prepared to do the time. Do we do that? And it is proper. In Ghana, the situation is not different. What is lacking is that politics has been so much monetized that corruption is high. And corruption is not a crime now in Ghana, one way or the other, once your party is in power, like you mentioned. And once politics has been so monetized, nobody cares about profligate spending, including government itself not checking itself in fiscal discipline. And when there's no fiscal discipline, a lot of the monies are squandered, without being accounted for. And nobody is going to arrest you because you are in government. When the next one comes, it continues. So if we have a Buhari who says that, look, I'm clean and I want everybody to be clean, you start it from there, I think it will stop. It will stop. The monetization of politics is a big problem. And then that social canopy, social psychological canopy I've mentioned already, where everybody thinks that stealing is good.
This approach is sensitizing people. And once that is gone into their psyche, it will be very difficult to reverse.
Right. Right.
Whereby if you become a minister, you are living lavishly, people are going to look at you and call you thief on the street and you can't do anything. And they can publicly go to the Complaints Commission, where you have one, and say, look, probe this man, check him. And such persons will have immunity. So everybody will be free. And everybody will be conscious.
Yes.
Now, Excellent, let me stay with you. See, I know, Buhari to come into power, got a nice coalition and brought everybody in. And you were talking about expenses. Now, in this part of the world, to get power costs huge sums of money. Trekking up and down. You give out the T-shirts. You give out the posters. You basically give out everything. In Ghana, I don't know about Nigeria, sometimes you actually have to bus people to go and vote and take them back home.
Buy televisions.
Televisions. So if I was joining your coalition and I've done all this to come, am I Santa Claus? Am I giving you all this money just for the good of Nigeria or the good of Ghana? I want my money back.
That's the tradition in Africa. Most countries, like I've always said, where the electorate is yet far from voting their conscience. They vote for the cap, face cap you give them. They vote for the T-shirt. They vote for the 100 naira or 5 Ghana cedis you give them. But what President Buhari is saying is, well, I'm in power now. I didn't steal money to get here. If you've stolen money and brought it to the coalition to help me, that's your business. If you're found wanting, you're going for it. I'm not going to cover anybody.
Wow.
I didn't send you to steal money to vote me into power. So he has no sympathy for such people.
Now that's tough.
He has, I'm telling you, he has no sympathy for himself. You cannot, he's opened himself up. If you have anything about me, say it. And nobody has been able to say anything so far. So if you steal money and there's a petition on you, you go face the EFCC or ICPC. Don't call me into it. I didn't send you to do that for me.
Will he do it, or is it just...
He is doing it already. He is doing it already. How many governors are facing the panel? How many people from within his own party, not just the opposition party, I think is going for... Well, not him. Not him. He doesn't go out for anybody. But if there's a petition against you, you go defend yourself. It's not because you're a member of my party or you're my friend or you're my family. No. You have to go and clear yourself. It's not me.
No.
I'll tell you this much. The daughter was here for some medical something. The High Commission was not involved. They took care of themselves, completely. That won't probably be the case in the past. So to tell you that it means business.
That's very interesting. Nana, it takes one person to make a change.
Absolutely.
And a leader as such, a trade transformational leader. And that's what we need in Africa. If it's going to be that one, I'm always for him. We have such in history before. Mexico, for 71 years, the PRI had ruled and they were just rough riding. I mean, it's like they didn't respect anything. The cartels were supporting them and things like that. It took one man who had been away, had worked with the international financial institutions, came back and was the most popular, became a president. I'm talking about President Zedel, who said, no, enough is enough. He was in that party. They voted for him on the ticket of the PRI. And he said, I will change Mexico. After 4 years, they said, he himself told them, I'm going for only one term, but the change must come. A lot of the new things that we are seeing in Mexico and the downing of the cartels and whatnot is because of this one man who changed the face of Mexico. And he went for only one term and left.
After Salinas.
Yes. Beyond that, we have something in Mongolia, where the former president, what did he do? He said, enough is enough. All the old traditions and the stealing of monies and the elopement and all those useless traditions that we have, that allows for monies to be just stolen and that kind of thing. Enough is enough. He was from that party, born into the party. Do you know the interesting part about Mongolia? What happened was that at the third year, when nominations for, that he was going for his second term, just like our president has picked nominations, the party which put him to power said, we don't want you. They didn't want him because he had been harsh, he had been changing things here and there, chasing corrupt persons and whatnot. And the interesting thing that happened that year was this, that in his final year as a president of that particular party, the opposition came for him to become their presidential candidate. And he won with the opposition. And he ruled for 8 years with the opposition. Such persons maybe are rare, but they change their states once and forever. Mm-hmm. The institutions get the power to work. Nigerian institutions would always want to look backwards and say, what will the president say if I acted this way? We have it in Ghana. Mm-hmm. If institutions are belted under the hypnosis of the governing body, it becomes difficult to chase corruption. But when the president himself sets the institutions and say, come on, work, this is what I want. If everybody is like this, somebody like His Excellency has said, they get a petition. Please work according to what the Constitution says you should do. If we do that, a change starts. And when you pour water at a certain level, it finds its own apertures and goes down. That's what I think President Buhari is doing in Nigeria. We need to applaud him. And he needs to draw me to his fellows in the West African sub-region first and to AU generally.
I want to take a break here. And then when I come back, my question goes to Your Excellencies. If Nigeria was to have election today for one reason or the other, would they vote Buhari back? Don't move. We're coming straight back. Thank you very much for staying. And this evening we have a very big conversation, anti-corruption crusade, a new wave across Africa, spearheaded by Buhari of Nigeria. And with me in the studio is His Excellency Ambassador Sir, as in being knighted, Ademola Olesiye Onafowunka, who's the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana. And then my own brother, Dr. Vladimir Enchidansu, Dean of Research, Legon Center of Diplomacy and International Affairs. Now, joining me now on the phone is Samson Ladi Ayenene, my brother also, a lawyer, who started his own campaign on saying that if Ghanaian politicians don't declare their assets, don't vote for them. I cannot agree with him because, well, if he's coming into the pot and he's not telling you what he's bringing into the pot, how do you know what he's going to take out? But what does our law say? Hello, Samson.
Hi, Nana.
My brother, what does our law say, or what does the Constitution say with regards to declaration of assets? I mean, is it even law in the country?
Yes, it is law. But Nana, before I start, I ought to say good evening to Dr. Vladimir Enchidansu particularly, and good evening to the High Commissioner also. Nana, the Constitution in Article 24 provides clearly for the need for this to be done so that we are able to curb corruption. And Article 25, Clause 5, clearly having anticipated that corruption will be an issue that we need to be fought, provided that the state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and the abuse of power. And I've just quoted Article 35, Clause 8. Now, pursuant to Article 24, we did pass the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998, which is Act 550.
Okay. Have I still got something?
To the Attorney General, a written declaration of all properties or assets owned by him and all liabilities owned by him, whether directly or indirectly. This is all the law said, and it stopped there. The point about that law, Nana, is that it's the most, and I described it the last time I had the privilege of reviewing a number of the anti-corruption laws in our country and suggesting ways to make them, give them teeth to bite. And my commentary about this particular law was that it was the most useless piece of legislation, a legislation which was supposed to be made to compel disclosure, rather was made to conceal, not to disclose, so that all the public officer is required presently to do is to pick a form. It's a piece of paper, and then you write your name and other particulars, and then you list the assets that you have, and you fold it, put it in an envelope, you seal it, and then you hand it to the Auditor General. After you have done that, Nana, this is what makes the law absurd and most useless. You give it to the Auditor General. He does not have permission to open and verify what you have put in there.
Wow.
He does not have permission to open and see if indeed it is not an empty piece of paper. And after that, there is no need for publication. In fact, the law does not make it compulsory for the officer to make the declaration. If a law does not compel, then what is the use of the law?
Wow.
So, what I have started and I'm asking for is that there ought to be verification of the declared assets and then publication of those assets verified by the Auditor General. So when you do it, the Auditor General must have the right to open the envelope and be able to verify the things you have put in there. And to be able to say, yes, you say you have one house here, we know that house, this is the house. And then we publish it. The need for publication is that Article 21 of the Constitution enjoins all of us and gives all of us the right to information, and information particularly about our public officers. So if we are supposed to assist the state to ensure that the corruption is eradicated, there's a declaration we do not know about. If they did not declare something, we also do not know about. How are we able to assist the system? We are left without any, ability to make any contribution whatsoever.
And I think
that is the point. There ought to be verification and as well as publication. An interesting point, very finally, is that this is such a retrogression because in the PNDC regime, there was a requirement for the gazetting of the declared asset. Gazetting means you go to the government printer and then they print it and it becomes available for the public. Even in PNDC regime, we were gazetting declared assets. In a democratic regime, we are fighting against verification and publication.
Thank you very much, Samson. Thank you. That's a revelation and a half. I'm sure we'll make comments on that, but just before the break, I wanted to find out from Your Excellency, if we were to go for an elections today for one reason or another in Nigeria, will the people of Nigeria vote Buhari, or would they say, no, Charlie, this is just too much, go home?
First of all, I'll let you know that I'm not a politician. I'm a career diplomat, so whatever I say does not relates to my being in any political party.
Sure.
I think if you have election today, the man will still probably win a landslide. Reason? There's a lot of poverty in the land. He's trying to fight that poverty by making sure that government purse is very safe, by making sure that most of the stolen funds are traced and brought back to the country, by ensuring that we start reinvesting in our infrastructure, in electricity, especially road, in medical institution, and especially in education. Why won't you vote for him? It takes a long while to rebuild or to build a house. As of this moment, I think if he goes for an election, he will score 70%. And it will cut across the whole country.
Wow.
That's my own personal belief.
Yeah.
I think the euphoria hasn't died down yet.
Okay.
And I believe that if he should call for elections tomorrow, I think he's going to get it again, because he started something which I think should be dear to almost all Nigerians. And
without shedding blood.
Without shedding blood.
The revolution without shedding blood.
So I strongly suspect that what he's doing, I think many more people would want to see.
Now, do you think other West African leaders will be panicking and say, look, what's this guy bringing? I mean, we have our system running, we are all happy. There he comes to declare 150,000 in account. They probably have millions and millions, stashed in the account that they can explain. And that's something saying within our laws, you can just write something on paper, fold it, that's it. Nobody knows what's in there. Is he putting pressure on the other African leaders?
I strongly suspect so, because until he came down and mentioned all these things, we were reading him from afar. And something is leading a certain revolution, one way or the other. Many people are talking. We've been talking about corruption, profligate spending, ostentatious living of our leaders. But yet there's nothing to back us. Our institutions, our constitution or the legal system do not help to make these things clear. Now the awareness is there. I think many more people are going to demand it across West Africa. Our very many leaders will also now try to take steps, no matter how quasi they would be. But I think he set out the fire which will burn throughout West Africa, if not the whole of Africa.
Your Excellency, let me put you in a tight corner. What do you think about our politics? I'm sure you've monitored the airwaves in the morning and you've gotten a fair dose of our politics.
I enjoy Ghanaian politics very much. It's interesting. Everything, like in every other African countries, is evolving. I think Ghana has a stable democracy, and politically, I think Ghana has come a long way, and Ghana will still go far. But we still have to keep looking at this thing holistically. We have to keep looking at corruption, because there's corruption everywhere. We have to keep looking at the issue of drugs everywhere, not only in Ghana, in Nigeria as well. A lot of money on the street, drug money, is not helping the situation, because A has it, I can have it too, and it's killing a lot of people.
The other thing, I don't know if it's in Nigeria, but I think it's there too. But here, we think that because
Nigeria and Ghana are brothers.
They're brothers.
They are common copies of
we
each
seem to have
other.
anything. We think that because it's a democracy, it means I'm free to do anything. And we have this sense of unlimited freedom, which we need to curtail. I don't know if you have, I'm sure you have the same there, but how do we let people know that, look, it's democracy, but it's within some remit?
America is the leading democracy in the world, but there are still rules, there's still some order. But I will not say we borrow the American system entirely, because America is an extremely free country. We Africans, America has come a long way with democracy. We still have to do a lot of work. I don't think that we should throw caution away. The law must, like in Lagos, today I just got a text, if you drive contrary to traffic, or you drive your motorcycle where you're not supposed to drive, you are going for 1 year or 2 years, or you're going to pay huge fines. We want to clean up our society. And I think the same thing is applying in Ghana, because I know what we call Okada, I don't see them on the streets because of the penalty. I think Ghana is doing very well, but a lot can still be done.
I mean, this our sense of freedom, or the ultimate freedom that we enjoy, is scary. And last Thursday, I said that this freedom will cost us our freedom.
Yes, absolutely. You're right, Nana. Even though His Excellency has said that Ghana is doing well and that kind of thing, I'm a little apprehensive about that, because, like you were saying, we're overdoing things, and I call that indiscipline. It is indiscipline simply because institutions of state are not working the way they should work. It is indiscipline because we don't have that constitutionalism, where people believe in the Constitution and they do things right. It is also indiscipline because institutionalism is lost, right? Because of late, crime has even gotten political colors. And he's saying so because of the corruption of the system. So it is a systemic thing. If we nip it in the bud, like you say, drugs, money laundering, everything goes to support a certain rotten system. And if they are fighting it, we must also fight it. And we must fight it to change the system so that discipline supports our democracy. Where you have a democracy and you have an undisciplined society, it fizzles out. And an undisciplined society creates a condition for corruption.
Well, thank you very much. And let me address my brother correctly. So, Dr. Vladimir Entwi is a Dean of Academic Affairs, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, and then former director of the Legon Center for Institute. Oh, former. Oh, I see. And Your Excellency, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure for having me.
For Continent and Country gracing us this evening. Well, folks, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. But if you want, some of my shirts, made in Africa, made in Ghana, keeping the economy going. Tanti's Fashion makes my shirt, and she is on 0244 366 2001. So 024 366 2001. I give them a call. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again.
My address is to honor General President Buhari.